Welcome to Defense Upcast, your trusted source for global defense news and strategic insights. In a move that could fundamentally alter the balance of power in the Middle East, reports suggest the Trump administration is considering selling America's most advanced fighter jet, the F-35 Lightning II, to Saudi Arabia. This isn't just another arms deal. This is a game-changer that could spark the biggest military transformation the region has seen in decades. Iran is watching, Israel is concerned, and the implications? They extend far beyond the Desert Kingdom. Stay with me, because what happens next could reshape alliances, trigger an arms race, and redefine Middle Eastern geopolitics for generations to come. To understand why this potential deal is so significant, we need to understand three things. What makes the F-35 special? The history of U.S. arms sales to Saudi Arabia, and the delicate military balance in the Middle East. The F-35 Lightning II isn't just another fighter jet. It's a fifth-generation multi-role stealth aircraft that represents the pinnacle of American military technology. With advanced stealth capabilities, sensor fusion that gives pilots unprecedented situational awareness, and the ability to penetrate the most sophisticated air defenses, the F-35 is arguably the most capable combat aircraft ever built. Only a select group of nations possesses this technology, primarily NATO allies and close U.S. partners like Israel and South Korea. Now, the United States and Saudi Arabia have a long history of defense cooperation. From F-15 Eagles to THAAD missile defense systems, the Saudis have been one of the largest purchasers of American military hardware. In 2017, President Trump announced a massive $110 billion arms package with Saudi Arabia, one of the largest defense deals in history. But the F-35 was always off the table. Why? Because of something called the Qualitative Military Edge, or QME. The QME is a U.S. policy commitment, enshrined in law, to ensure Israel maintains military superiority over any combination of potential regional adversaries. For decades, this meant that America's most advanced weapons, particularly those with strategic offensive capabilities, were reserved exclusively for Israel in the Middle East. The F-35 was the crown jewel of this policy. Israel received the F-35 inches 2016, becoming the first Middle Eastern nation to operate the jet. They've even conducted combat missions with it, reportedly striking targets in Syria and possibly Iran. So why would the Trump administration consider breaking this long-standing policy? The answer lies in changing Middle East dynamics and three key strategic objectives. First, countering Iran. Saudi Arabia and Iran are locked in a regional Cold War that spans from Yemen to Syria. A Saudi Air Force equipped with F-35 seconds would dramatically shift the military calculation, giving Riyadh the ability to strike deep into Iranian territory with aircraft that Tehran's air defenses would struggle to detect. Second, the potential Saudi-Israeli normalization. The Trump administration, and reportedly the incoming administration as well, sees advanced arms sales as a bargaining chip to achieve a historic normalization agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel. The logic is simple. Offer Saudi Arabia what it wants, militarily, in exchange for diplomatic recognition of Israel. Third, strategic realignment. With China and Russia increasing their influence in the Middle East, the United States wants to ensure Saudi Arabia remains firmly in the American orbit. Beijing has been courting Riyadh, even brokering the Saudi-Iran détente in 2023. Selling the F-35 would be a powerful signal that America remains the security partner of choice. But here's the complexity. Israel has historically opposed such sales. While current reports suggest Israeli concerns might be addressed through additional U.S. commitments and potentially unprecedented intelligence-sharing arrangements between Israel and Saudi Arabia, the sale would still represent a fundamental shift in regional military dynamics. So what would a Saudi F-35 deal actually mean for the Middle East? The implications are profound and multi-layered. First, let's talk about immediate military implications. If Saudi Arabia acquires F-35s, it would possess the ability to conduct deep strike operations against any adversary in the region. Iranian nuclear facilities, currently protected by layered air defenses, would become vulnerable. The entire calculus of deterrence changes. Iran would need to invest billions in upgrading its air defense network. Systems like the Russian S-400 or indigenous Bavar 373 would need to be deployed more extensively. We're talking about a classic arms race dynamic. But it's not just about Iran. Other regional powers would react. Turkey, which was removed from the F-35 program after purchasing Russian S-400 systems, would feel the pressure. Egypt, the UAE, and Qatar, all major U.S. defense partners, would likely request access to similar capabilities. The UAE was already promised F-35s under the Abraham Accords. A Saudi deal would accelerate those deliveries and potentially open the door to others. The economic dimension is equally significant. We're not talking about a dozen aircraft. Saudi Arabia would likely order 50 to 100 F-35s, a deal worth anywhere from $10 to $23 billion. That's massive for American defense contractors, particularly Lockheed Martin. It would secure production lines, create jobs, and reinforce America's position as the world's premier arms supplier. But it would also make Saudi Arabia dependent on American maintenance, spare parts, and upgrades for decades to come, which is exactly the kind of long-term strategic relationship Washington wants. Now, here's where things get really interesting: the diplomatic dimension. A Saudi F-35 deal would almost certainly be packaged with a broader normalization agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Imagine the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and the Israeli Prime Minister shaking hands in Washington or Riyadh. This would be the most significant diplomatic breakthrough in the Middle East since the Camp David Accords. It would isolate Iran further, create a de facto anti-Iran coalition spanning from Tel Aviv to Riyadh, and fundamentally reorder regional alliances. But there are serious risks and obstacles. First, the technology transfer concerns. The F-35 is packed with classified technology. Selling it to Saudi Arabia raises questions about security. Could sensitive information leak to China or Russia? Saudi Arabia has been expanding its relationship with Beijing. Then there's the human rights dimension. Saudi Arabia's record, particularly after the Khashoggi killing, remains controversial. Congressional opposition in the United States could be significant. Israel's genuine concerns also can't be dismissed. Even with assurances, introducing F-35s into another Middle Eastern military changes Israel's strategic calculus. Israeli military planners would need to account for scenarios, however unlikely, where these aircraft could be used against Israeli interests. The intelligence sharing arrangements being discussed would be unprecedented, potentially giving Saudi Arabia access to Israeli operational intelligence and vice versa. And finally, there's the Iran reaction. Tehran would view this as an existential threat. They might accelerate their nuclear program, arguing they need a deterrent against a newly empowered Saudi military. They might escalate proxy conflicts in Yemen, Iraq, or Lebanon. They might even take more aggressive actions against Gulf shipping or energy infrastructure. The danger of miscalculation increases dramatically. What's certain is this: if this deal goes through, we're not just talking about an arms sale. We're talking about a redrawing of the Middle East military balance that will have consequences for decades. The region's power dynamics, its alliance structures, its conflicts, and its peace processes all would be fundamentally altered. And that makes this one of the most consequential defense decisions of our time. Thanks for watching Defense Upcast. If you found this analysis valuable, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Leave a comment below. Do you think the U.S. should sell F-35s to Saudi Arabia? And check out our video on Israel's military capabilities to understand the other side of this equation. Until next time, stay informed.